Welcome to another episode yet again of Design Streaming Sessions. I'm your host, Ferma Henry. And I want to start this one with a super huge apology. Actually, we've been off for almost 2 weeks now. We haven't live streamed at all. That was purely because of some technical things and other things that we're trying to do here to do better UX and, try and get things in the motion of something else, much more superior that is definitely going to benefit you, the audience, from how we deliver, the quality that we deliver with, and all of that stuff. So jumping into today's topic, it's a very interesting one. It's something that I've been wanting to speak about for some time now. But maybe before we jump into today's topic, I wanted to talk about some of the different on a day-to-day basis that actually affect the way that we look at design and the way we design things. So we know that we have been disrupted by things like voice, things like augmented reality, things like AR, and all of that stuff, which is very interesting stuff, right? But about 2 weeks or about 3 weeks ago now, Neuralink, the company that Elon Musk owns with a couple of other people, introduced something that would be super interesting to cover, on this live streaming session, which is brain-computer interfaces. So I want to say that again, brain-computer interfaces. So we are all used to the, almost traditional now, and that have managed to give us how things look like and how things work, with brain-computer interfaces. I want to get into that a little bit. So maybe if I can just, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. If you have not seen this, look at Neuralink chip tested. Elon Musk calls this the 3 little pigs experiment. So let me see if I can play this and show you some of the things that I'm talking about here.
We're bringing out the pigs, and what we're going to show you is I'll walk right over.
So what Elon Musk is doing here is doing a demo of how these pigs, right? So they've implanted this this Neuralink thing in their head, and it's showing that these pigs are nice and healthy, all of that stuff, all of those good things. Give me a second here. Let me just turn off my notifications on my computer so that I don't, give out some incriminating evidence here of, people I work with and other things like that. Turn off Slack before you start live streaming. Cool. So back to the video.
So if you have a Neuralink and then you decide you don't want it, or you want to get an upgrade and the Neuralink is removed, is it removed in such a way that you are still healthy and happy afterwards? And what Dorothy illustrates is that you can put in the Neuralink, remove it, and be healthy, happy, and indistinguishable from...
So I'm just going to skip to the more interesting part here.
Here we go. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So
right.
What's happening here is that
Thanks for coming out.
they have this Neuralink thing, and it's transmitting the senses from the pig snout, right, to the brain. And the waves that you see at the bottom of the screen here, if the YouTube bar was playing nicely with me, is actually the sounds that are made by the neural spikes, like you heard Elon Musk saying there.
You can see each of the spikes from the 1024 electrodes, and then if she snuffles around, touches her snout in the ground, or you kind of feed her some food. Pigs love food. So as you can see, we have a healthy and happy pig.
So these are pigs that have got something implanted in their brain, and they are transmitting data back into a computer feed, and people are able to see what's happening within the pig's brain activity, basically on a screen, right? And this opens up so many questions or so many possibilities and so many very interesting things, that if we want to explore and really look at how the future will be disrupted by this. I don't want to use disruption, maybe it's, sort of like a weird word in this case, but how the future is going to progress rather, by this type of technology, something that is really interesting and exciting at the same time, right? Currently, we're still looking at keyboards and mice and, touch sensitive things, and voice and all of that other stuff, where actually the human being is interacting with some sort of device or software and is responding to them. In this case, we have a device planted directly into the brain. So the brain is transmitting information directly, more like electrons directly into this device, and this device gets to understand where what that information is. So in this scenario, you can actually imagine a world without an interface, without the user, sort of like graphic user interface that we currently have at the moment. And think about really how the brain computer interface would work. This is a very interesting prospect, right? Now, not everybody is going to be sign up to be a cyborg. This is mainly going to be used for research methods and, sort of like medical things. So one of the examples that Elon Musk gave in that demonstration was a scenario where somebody has got with their spinal injury. You can actually connect one Neuralink in their brain and have another, receiver or responder at the lower level where, that person has been injured. And, that becomes, the connection between the brain and the spinal cord, where it's actually trying to send things, and, everything just gets aired via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or whatever it will be transmitting in, which is a very, very, very interesting prospect. But how does this affect design and the way that we look at products, 25 years from now, 30 years from now, where this is no longer just being looked as a medical application, but almost like augmented reality glasses or something like that, where people are putting these chips in their heads, and they're directly connected to the internet, or of course there might be weird scenarios where you'll find that there might be some terms of services that have been canceled, and you end up not having 1 TB of your memory gone just overnight. But other than that, if you think of the possibilities that you actually don't have to take photographs anymore, your memories can actually be stored somewhere on a physical hard drive, and you can retrieve them directly into your brain. That makes things like Parkinson's and other brain diseases much more bearable. And but other than that, it's very interesting to think about it, because how does the future of humanity look like with technology like this? How do we look at how we design products? We think that the smartphone right now is one of the most accessible things that people can have, and probably will be for the next 15, 20 years, etc., right? But I think with brain computer interfaces, things are really going to start to morph and change into different interesting avenues and other things like that. So I think it's a very interesting technology that is going to push the way that we design products and do do different things with it. Now, I've been talking about these different disruptive technologies that we've been seeing happening on the market, and coming out, like GPT-3 AI. If you missed that, you can go look in our library, and previously live stream shows. There's GPT-3 and what it means for design. This is another conversation like that, brain computer interfaces and what they mean for traditional design, right? I mean, not even talking about accessibility or privacy or all of those other things that we need to think about within this space, right? There is, just how do we make that experience that people will be having in the future a much more bearable one, a much more easier to understand, easy to onboard, easy to use. How to use that device once it's in your head, right? Is it something that just happens magically? Elon Musk thinks it does, but I think there will be many more different applications that will, happen as we go through developments of this technology. So I'm just trying to look here, brain-computer interface UX, user experience design for brain-computer interface. I sort of like, went through and read a couple of, scholar articles that were published around brain-computer interface and all of those other things. I'm just opening a link here from UX Magazine talking about, the brain-computer interfaces and what something interesting within the UX arm that a human being can interact with, a 3D printed arm that a human being can interact with just by having the neural link inserted, right? How many other things can we piggyback off, this neural link and be able to do within the, DIY community, external things that you can control with this, how will people interact with the computers that they have right now? What is Apple's strategy 40 years from now, when it comes to building computers and machines that people actually interact with? How does that look like? So it's really an interesting thought. It's really an interesting thing to think about, and how this specific technology will definitely most likely disrupt the way that we look at and design products. There's nothing traditional here. There isn't voice. People who cannot speak can actually interact with computers now using Neuralink, right? People who have total body paralysis and disabilities can now, interact with this, right? So how is this different from our traditional user interfaces that we have? Well, for one, the way that the data will be moving between this interface and directly to your brain is way much faster. The input and output of that is so much faster that it's actually astonishing to I think, with the world moving into the state of 5G and all of that stuff, different scenarios that you can think, computers and our keyboards and touch interfaces and all of that stuff. But thinking about brain-computer interfaces, it's so much more different, from our traditional graphic user interfaces that we are, used to, and thinking that, 35, 50 years from now, people won't be listening to podcasts in the traditional sense that we know, right? People may not be your phone, but which, or even a command line, or a graphic user interface, and you can, tweak other things and monitor other things and do other, interesting things. But this is, machines or computers communicating directly with your brain, and you're communicating directly with the computer from your brain, right? So there isn't, the low bandwidth type of communication that we're used to. It's a very interesting thing, right? So some people might say it's almost like plugging your brain onto the internet, of which I think it's a different type of thing, because it's actually just plugging a computer directly into your brain, and your brain does the heavy lifting of dealing with that. So it's a very interesting prospect. I'm super excited And I would like to know, for some of you UX designers who are out there, who have experienced this or have seen brain-computer interfaces coming up and are super, keen on how this is going to change the world. What are some of the things that you are interested in? Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what are some of the things or products that you foresee coming up in the future that don't exist currently, purely because of brain computer interfaces and other things that it might open up. So please leave a comment in the comment section below, or if you'd like to have a conversation about that, I'd like to officially invite you to our LinkedIn group, Do Better UX. If you just search Do Better UX under LinkedIn groups, you'll be able to find it. I'm inviting you to come and have a conversation with us there, and tell us what are some of the ideas that you have or that might have sparked out of this conversation. So let's carry on the conversation. Let's pick up the conversation there, and let's proceed. Talking about this thing, because I think it's a very interesting prospect around how we design products, not only how we design products, but actually how digital products are going to look like in the future. Is it just going to be a bunch of databases without actually, all these cool user interfaces that we're looking at as UX, UI designers? And where does other things like voice fall into this, right? Is there sort of like a combination solution that we can have of brain computer interfaces, voice activated? Obviously you can augment stuff into people's eyesights and whatever they see, because you'll be able to communicate and overlay directly on what the person's vision is, and put whatever data that you want in there. So thinking about AR and things like VR will be very different, right? Like in the future, people might not need an Oculus. They might just need a Neuralink implanted in their head, and then they can use all these other products as services, rather than actually having physical hardware products that we put on our heads to play Beat Saber and all of that stuff. So imagine playing Beat Saber without the gear and all of that stuff. It's just happening in your brain. You can see this thing in reality. I don't know what the processing power will be or how that will work. Obviously you can have sort of like those remote processing centers. I don't know what they call them, where you have this central service that is offering you all the computing power, sort of like an AWS type of server scenario, where you have all this processing power in one place, and it's actually doing all the work there, sort of like Google Stadia, if you follow games, which is a service that you can play on any device, and most of the computing is actually happening in the cloud and not on the device that you're streaming on or playing on. So having said that, I am really interested in finding out more from you guys. What do you think about brain-computer interfaces? What are the possible scenarios that you see it? Like for me, just speaking about this, I'm starting to think about, how augmented reality and VR will be applied, and how cool that could be, because now we know exactly where your hands are and where your body parts are, and we can transmit that on a nanosecond level without having all this crazy hardware. So how can we leverage off Neuralink and other technology, other brain computer interface technologies, to make the experience a much better place, and not only use it for medical stuff, but also maybe for other interesting things as well, like immersive gaming and immersive content. Yeah, it's a very interesting prospect to think about and to consider as a UX designer. I'm always talking about these different topics of how things are gonna disrupt the way that we look at and design products. And yeah, Having said that, talking about today's topic, it's a little bit heavy for me to be pulling throughout the hour. I think today it's going to be a very short session. I think we're going to run up to 8:30 and make it a 30-minute session. And having said that, it's about 5 minutes till we get to the end of the session. So I would like to use this this extra remaining time to invite you to some of the things that we are doing online. So obviously, if you're here on YouTube, you probably know about our podcast, Not a UX Designer. If you're a subscriber here on YouTube, you probably know about those things. If you're not a subscriber, please do consider subscribing if you're interested in getting UX design updates. If you're somebody who's trying to get into the UX career, or sort of like just try to stay in the loop with all things UX and product design and strategy, and what is trending and what are some of the things that we assume and foresee happening in the future, please do consider subscribing if that is some of the content that you are looking forward to seeing. We are expecting to have much more frequency on the streaming as well on our podcast. We've recently launched our website, Do Better UX. Let me just open it here. We've there was a couple of times that I was speaking about it on the podcast, on the live streaming session, and we're saying it's coming. Now it is finally here, and we're really excited that it's here. On our website, you'll be able to stay in the loop with all the things that we are doing. Please do check it out. Subscribe to our newsletter where we give you a UX scoop of the week. So this is a weekly newsletter where we send you career insights into your inbox, where we send you different trending things that are happening, things that caught our eye, and all of those other cool, interesting things. You'll be able to follow our podcast, sort of like listen and watch to the latest podcast. We are going to be trying to have video recorded versions of our podcasts as well, so that will be extra content here on YouTube. There is also UX career insights and resources that we'll be giving out to you. There are more interesting things that we are looking forward to taking out there in the next coming months to come. So please do feel free and consider joining our community over at LinkedIn. That way you'll be able to sort of like have the first-hand information of any developments that are happening within our space, and all of the cool things that we are planning and cooking in the background. Having said that, I think that is it for today's live design streaming session. I'm your host, Farmer Henry, and again, please check out our podcast. That is Not a UX Designer. I've already showed you the website. That is dobetterux.com. That is where you will find all of our links and all of the interesting things there. So until tomorrow, we'll see you again. Peace out.